Hey everyone. We've talked before about how tough it is to treat choriocarcinoma.
Absolutely.
But get this, scientists are making incredible progress using nanomedicine.
Really amazing stuff.
I know, right? It's seriously cutting edge, and I can't wait to unpack it all with you today.
Sounds great.
So for anyone who's not totally familiar with this type of cancer, choriocarcinoma starts in placental cells.
Yeah,
And it unfortunately affects pregnant women and new mothers.
that's right.
But the really encouraging news is that researchers have developed this new system to deliver chemo.
Right.
And it's already showing really promising results.
It is. It's exciting how they're using nanotechnology to get the chemo right to those cancer cells, and that way they're minimizing the damage to healthy tissue.
So it's like instead of just giving the whole body these strong drugs, they're basically making a seek and destroy system that goes right to the root of the problem.
You got it. It all starts with these tiny hollow spheres. They're called polymersomes.
Polymersomes.
Yeah, imagine them like microscopic delivery trucks carrying the medicine.
Okay.
They can be loaded up with these chemo drugs, and you can actually design them to target specific cells in the body.
Okay, so that's pretty amazing by itself, but how do they ensure that these tiny trucks get to the right place? How do they not get lost?
Well, they've discovered that choriocarcinoma cells, they have a really high amount of this specific protein on their surface. It's called ENT1.
So are they using the ENT1 protein kind of like a homing beacon to guide those polymersomes to the cancer cells?
Exactly. They attach this molecule, it's called guanosine, to the surface of the polymersome.
Okay.
And guanosine is a building block of RNA,
Right.
and ENT1 is really drawn to guanosine.
Interesting.
So the polymersome is basically pulled right to those choriocarcinoma cells.
It's like a lock and key system, but on a microscopic level.
Exactly.
Wow, I'm blown away by this already.
It's pretty neat.
But what about the chemo drug itself? What makes it so effective?
Well, the drug you're using is called methotrexate, or MTX.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
It's pretty common.
Yeah.
But the problem with just regular MTX is that it doesn't really distinguish between tumor cells and healthy cells.
Oh, so even though it goes after cancer cells, it also harms healthy cells in the process.
Yeah, and that leads to some pretty bad side effects.
Right, I was going to say, what kind of side effects are we talking about?
Well, things like liver and kidney toxicity.
That's rough.
Yeah, it can be really debilitating for patients.
So with this nanomedicine approach, they're basically bypassing those healthy cells and delivering the MTX straight into the cancer, right?
Exactly. And the early results from studies on mice, they're really encouraging.
Oh.
They've seen tumor shrinkage by up to 95% with this targeted delivery system.
95%. That's incredible. That's almost like getting rid of the cancer completely.
It's amazing. And in these same studies, non-targeted drug carriers were like 6 times less effective.
Wow.
It's a huge difference.
So not only could this treatment be more effective, but it could also seriously reduce how severe those side effects are.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's amazing. This is huge.
It is. It's a big step forward, and it really shows how nanomedicine has the potential to revolutionize how we treat cancer.
Absolutely. Now, before we get too ahead of ourselves, I think it's important to understand the specific challenges of choriocarcinoma.
Okay.
You mentioned it's a rare cancer. How rare are we actually talking?
It occurs in about 4 out of every 100,000 pregnancies in the United States.
Wow, that is incredibly rare.
It is.
So for those of us who don't know a lot about this specific type of cancer, could you tell us a bit more about it? Like, what is it really?
Sure. Choriocarcinoma, it typically develops in the uterus from cells that would usually form the placenta,
Okay.
and it can actually happen after a miscarriage,
Oh, wow.
an abortion, or an ectopic pregnancy.
So it's directly linked to pregnancy.
Yes, directly related to the placenta. And it can even develop after a full-term pregnancy, although it's less common.
Oh, interesting.
Another potential cause is a molar pregnancy, where there's no embryo and the placental tissue just grows abnormally.
I see.
So there are a few different ways it can develop.
This all sounds incredibly challenging for women who are diagnosed with it. I can't imagine.
It is, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah. And what are the symptoms?
Well, the most common ones are pelvic pain and irregular vaginal bleeding.
Okay.
And it can be very aggressive, like it spreads really quickly to other parts of the body.
The other parts of the body, like where?
It can spread to the bones, the GI tract, breasts, kidneys, liver, lungs, lymph nodes, and even the brain.
Oh, wow. So it's serious.
It is very serious.
Wow, this is all pretty heavy stuff. But before we go any further, I want to learn more about how this new treatment actually works.
Yeah, of course.
What are these polymersomes made of, and how do they release the medication only when and where it's needed?
Great question. So let's break down these polymersomes a little bit more.
Okay.
Imagine them as like tiny containers,
Right.
but they're made from polymers.
Polymers, okay.
Yeah, and you can think of polymers as these long chains of molecules,
I see.
like building blocks,
Okay.
all linked together.
So I'm picturing like a microscopic bubble
Yes.
made of these molecular chains.
Exactly.
But how does the methotrexate actually get inside?
Well, that's what's really cool about them.
Okay.
They're actually designed to be hollow.
Oh, interesting.
So when they're being made, they naturally create these spherical structures.
Okay.
And there's like a space in the middle,
All right.
and that's where they put the MTX.
Oh, so they're basically packing the chemo drugs into these little empty bubbles?
Yeah, it's like a tiny protective capsule for the medicine.
I see. But how do they make sure it doesn't leak out before it gets to the cancer cells?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
They've designed the polymersomes to be super stable in the bloodstream.
Okay.
It's like a shield.
It's like a time release capsule,
Kind of.
but instead of releasing it over time,
Yeah.
it releases it based on location.
You could say that. The key to that targeted release is that guanosine molecule we talked about earlier.
Right, the one that's attached to the polymers.
Right.
But I'm still not totally clear on how that actually triggers the drug to come out.
Okay, so picture this.
Okay.
The polymersome. It's floating around in the bloodstream
Right.
with its little guanosine beacon,
Okay.
and then it runs into a choriocarcinoma cell.
Okay.
And that guanosine, it locks onto the ENT1 protein.
Like a key fitting into a lock.
Exactly.
So the polymersome attaches to the cancer cell,
Yes.
and then does it just burst open and release the MTX?
Well, it's a little more sophisticated than that.
Okay.
The binding actually starts a process called endocytosis.
Endocytosis, what's that?
It's basically where the cancer cell kind of swallows up the whole polymersome.
It swallows it. How does that even work?
Okay, so imagine this. The cell membrane, it folds inward around the polymersome.
Okay.
It's like it's making a little pocket,
Right.
and then that pocket pinches off.
Oh, wow.
And it forms a little vesicle inside the cell with the polymersome inside.
Okay, so the polymersome is now inside this vesicle within the cancer cell.
Right.
Then what happens?
The environment inside that vesicle, it's actually more acidic than the bloodstream.
Okay.
And that change in acidity,
Yeah.
it makes the polymersome change its structure.
So the acidity is like a signal to release the MTX.
Exactly.
Wow.
The polymersome becomes destabilized.
Right.
And that allows the methotrexate to escape
Oh, that's so cool.
right into the cancer cell.
It's like a tiny Trojan horse
It is.
sneaking into the cancer cell and delivering its payload. That's incredible. And this targeted approach, it must really minimize the damage to healthy cells,
That's right.
since the MTX is mostly released only where it's needed.
Exactly. And that's one of the most exciting parts of this research.
Yeah.
It really has the potential for more effective treatment with way fewer of those harsh side effects.
This is groundbreaking. And you mentioned earlier how this tech could be used to treat other types of cancer too, right? Can you talk more about that?
Of course. So remember how the key to this whole system is finding a specific target on the cancer cell
Right.
that the polymersome can lock onto?
It's all about finding the right lock for the guanosine key.
Exactly. And researchers are already looking at other molecules that could be attached to the polymersome
Oh, cool.
to target different cancer cells.
So it's like a customizable delivery system for different types of cancer? That's amazing.
Imagine a future where chemo isn't this like blanket attack on your body.
Right.
It's a precise, targeted strike against the cancer cells.
Wow.
So you're sparing healthy tissue and minimizing those side effects.
That's a vision worth working towards.
Definitely.
And I feel like this research is just the beginning of what's possible with nanomedicine.
Oh, absolutely.
But before we go too far down that road, what are the next steps for the choriocarcinoma research specifically?
Okay, well, the results from those animal studies are really promising.
Yeah.
But there's still more work to do before they can move on to human trials.
Right.
So the next phase will probably involve more preclinical studies. It's going to fine-tune the polymersome design,
Got it.
make sure the drug release mechanism is perfect, and figure out any long-term effects.
So they want to be totally sure it's safe and effective before they start testing it in people.
Exactly. Patient safety is the top priority.
Of course.
But if those preclinical studies go well, the next step would be to apply for approval to actually start clinical trials in humans.
And that's when things will get really exciting.
Oh, definitely.
I can't wait to see how this technology works in people. It really does have the potential to change the lives of so many people.
I agree. It's a big reason to be hopeful and optimistic.
Absolutely. Now, I want to bring in a different perspective.
Good.
Earlier, you mentioned Dr. Maureen Baldwin, an OB/GYN, was part of the research team.
Yes.
I'd love to hear her thoughts on what this breakthrough could mean for her patients.
Yeah, that would be great. I think she would be thrilled.
Yeah.
From a medical perspective, the potential benefits are, they're really exciting.
I bet.
The thought of a more effective treatment with fewer side effects
Right.
is something we've been working towards for so long.
And I imagine this must be especially meaningful for women who are diagnosed with choriocarcinoma.
Oh, absolutely.
Many of them are young mothers
Right.
with young families.
Right.
And the thought of going through chemo
Yeah.
with all those awful side effects,
It's tough.
it must be incredibly daunting.
You're right. It's already such a hard diagnosis,
Yeah,
physically and emotionally.
exactly.
And then to have to worry about how the treatment will impact their ability to care for their family.
Right.
It's just another layer of complexity on top of everything else.
Absolutely. So if this targeted approach does well in human trials,
Fingers crossed.
it could really change these women's lives.
I really think so.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to offer a treatment that not only fights the cancer better, but also allows them to have a better quality of life
Yeah,
while they're going through it.
right.
Fewer side effects mean they can be more active,
Yeah,
spend more time with their loved ones,
absolutely.
just, feel more like themselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing to think that something so tiny, like these microscopic polymersomes,
Yeah.
could have such a huge impact on a person's life.
It's really a testament to the power of science
Absolutely.
and what can happen when you have brilliant minds like Dr. Taratula and her team dedicated to finding better ways to treat
Yeah.
and ultimately cure cancer.
It's truly inspiring work, and it makes you wonder what other diseases could benefit from this.
Right.
This targeted nanomedicine delivery.
Absolutely.
I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
I agree. Think about autoimmune disorders,
Right.
neurodegenerative diseases,
Yeah.
even genetic disorders.
Oh, wow.
Could this tech be adapted to deliver gene therapies
Yeah.
or other treatments
Yeah.
directly to the cells or organs that need them?
It's like having a customizable toolbox for medicine.
I love that.
You could create personalized treatments
Exactly.
that target the root cause of the illness
Yeah.
with minimal impact on healthy tissue.
It's like precision medicine at its best.
It really is. And as research in nanomedicine keeps advancing,
Yeah.
we can expect to see even more groundbreaking discoveries and amazing therapies in the coming years.
Absolutely. It's a future with so much hope.
It is. And it's incredible to think we're living in a time when these breakthroughs are happening.
I know. It's exciting.
It really feels like the start of a new era in medicine.
I completely agree. The journey of scientific discovery, it never really ends.
Right.
With each breakthrough, we get a little bit closer to a world where diseases that once seemed like unbeatable,
Yeah.
they become treatable and manageable.
And hopefully someday curable.
Exactly.
Well, on that hopeful note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of nanomedicine.
I agree. It's been a great discussion.
It has. I hope you found this exploration as fascinating as I did.
Me
It
too.
really gave me a lot to think about.
Knowledge is power. The
I'm-
more we understand about these discoveries,
Yes.
the better we can navigate the world of medicine and healthcare.
So stay curious, keep exploring, and join us next time
We'll be here.
for another deep dive
Definitely.
into the amazing world of cutting-edge science and technology.
Absolutely.